YouTube, what is up? And if I'm posting this on any other platform, insert platform, what is up? I'm definitely posting it on YouTube. Guys, welcome back. My name is David Feldman-Makrias, and today what we're going to be talking about is paid media cost. And I'm kind of constructing this as we're going, as I usually do, anyways, because I feel like it's pretty engaging and we can kind of synthesize as a group, even though I'm not really talking to anyone right now physically, but hopefully some of you are still listening. So, anyways, let's get into it right now. So, paid media cost, what do I mean by that? So, you know what? I'm going to define this as digital paid media cost. Well, specifically, I'm talking about paid media in Google Ads, or Facebook ads. I'm going to say Facebook or Instagram ads, right? There's a spend that goes within this. If you're doing any kind of, whether you're a business spending money in Google or spending money in Facebook, okay, let me clarify. Okay, paying an agency or a freelancer to do Google posts or Facebook or Instagram posts is completely separate. I'm talking about physically paying Google or physically paying Facebook slash Instagram or YouTube or whatever channel to run ads. Okay, two different distinctions there. But Google ads and Facebook, Instagram ads, I want to talk about paid media costs. And what I mean by this is I want to talk about how either you get charged if you're a business or how you do charge if you're a freelancer, agency, so on and so forth, to maximize the amount of money for the service and to make sure that you're providing the most value. So, okay, what are some typical guidelines and some typical forms that I see? Let's say we have a client that is spending $10,000 in Google Ads per month, right? Google Ads per month. Great. So usually there is a management fee associated with whoever's going to be managing this Google Ads account. All right. So what is a example of management fee? Well, let's look at examples. Some examples would be a percent of ad spend. All right. You can charge a percent of ad spend. You can charge a retainer, which is a fixed cost every month. You can do a percent of this one's interesting and tricky, but percent or you know what, I'm not even going to say percent, I'm going to say result based, right? That's interesting. That maybe could be something that you get commission on instead, but these are like the main ones that I see, right? Some percent of ad spend, some sort of retainer, or some result-based metric. So in this actual example, I'm going to put example here, right? $10,000 in Google Ads per month. Management fee examples. Let's back this up. I love outlines, by the way, because they just kind of organize everything. So what would be my example management fee in this instance? All right, let's talk about first percent of ad spend, right? Percent of ad spend, let's say you're charging 15% of ad spend. Awesome. So what does that equate to? That equates to $1,500. So this is a typical way that agencies usually do this, and this stems from, I mean, back in traditional advertising where you make a percent of what the actual cost is. That is your agency fee or freelance fee. Now, in Google Ads, as an example, I've seen ranges anywhere from 15% to 25%. You know, that's typical. You know, it could be higher, could be lower, but that's usually what it is. Now, if you do 25%, then you make $2,500 on a $10,000 a month Google ad spend. Well, it's a quarter, right? So it seems a little bit hefty, but again, it depends on a lot of different factors. So I'm going to say management fee factors. Depends on the detail of the account, right? How detailed is the account? How many campaigns? Are you in charge of feeds and data migration, right? Because that adds in another layer. Sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't. Ad copy changes. How often? Within that, there's brand guidelines. So all this stuff starts to add in some brands that you deal with in the space, whether it's Google Ads Management or social media ads management. A lot of these factors will come into play, but then some of them won't. And really, the best way to charge, in my opinion, is a custom basis, right? It's a custom basis. So the answer, solution on how to charge or how to be charged for digital ad spend management, custom. That's the answer. It really depends. So I actually wanted to open up a Canva and sketch out what I was thinking would work. So I thought about this system as a tier-based system. So you have different tiers, and I'm going to draw some lines here. So we got here. Let's draw another line. We got here. So really, if you're going to do a percentage of ad spend, right, I think that always has to play into account. But let's say someone's spending $1 million in ads. Does that mean you should get paid, $150,000 a month? Yeah, I don't know if you can. I don't know if it warrants that amount, but maybe a significant it would warrant. So let's talk about some of the different add-ons that we can do. So let's add in here. So we have, I'd say, if you're starting on a lower range, this text box is way too big. Let's make it like this. I don't know, maybe that was way too small. I'm not typing it all. Ah, boy, what are we doing? All right, so let's just say here's a minimum, right? Minimum, there needs to be a minimum fee, right? Regardless of the spend, because if you're charging 15% of maybe a $500 spend, that is like $75. That's not worth the time to put into that account. And that's why it's typically you have to spend a certain amount as a client to be worth it to any agency. So there needs to be a minimum fee. And typically what I see this to be is, $500 per month. See if now I can make this smaller. Sorry if that's annoying on my keyboard. Minimum $500 per month is a management fee, right? So where does that even out in terms of ad spend if we're basing our pricing structure, at least initially, on ad spend? And I'm going to take a 15%. Some of you might consider that low, but I think that at least it's relative, right? Well, where does that break even? If you're spending about $4,000 in the management, that's a $600 management fee. So it's a little bit under, let's do some quick math. If 500 divided by 0.15, that's a $3,300 ad spend. So we're going to make this 3,333. Ooh, evil number. So once you cross this point, that's where the 15% equals the $500. So I'd say once you cross this point, then you can charge 15%, right? So we'll make this 15% of ad spend, anywhere in this range. Now, again, using the $1 million example, I don't necessarily think that anything over that is. Should you make $150,000 at $1 million ad spend? Probably not. That's where it needs to get custom, right? So let's say this number is this other range here, I'm going to put at, as an example, $20,000 in ad spend. Okay, this, I'm going to say this is ad spend, and then this is management fee. You know, paid fee to manage the account, right? All right, cool. So you have a minimum of $500 per month up to a $3,300 ad spend. Then you have 15% of ad spend up to $20,000. So then what is that amount? Well, let me copy this here. That amount is going to be 15% of $20,000 is $3,000. And again, this is all per month. So I'm going to say management fee per month, right? That's, you have a $3,000 range. So your amount goes up. One of the main reasons why it's tough to do just a pure percent of ad spend is because, and I'm going to make pros and cons back in this list, and I'll share all this information with you guys too. I'll say pros and cons, percent of ad spend. A con, you know what, let's break it out this way. Percent of ad spend, pros, cons. So a con would be it's in the manager's best interest for the client to spend more money regardless. That's the one thing I don't like about percentage of ad spend. It doesn't always make sense for the client to spend more money. That's the biggest con. However, I do use percent of ad spend to see exactly where the market should be so I don't price myself out of market. So I'm going to put as a pro, used as a sliding scale to price against the overall market of advertising, right? Because you want to be relative to what, you want to be competitive and relative to what is out there in the market. And the traditional thought process is it's a percentage of the media buy, right? But it's a little bit different when we get into this. So I'm actually going to highlight this green. All right, so now let's go back to our graph here. So we're cut off at $3,000, okay? So after this, I believe, I'm going to push this up here. Let's push this up here. By the way, I love Canvas so much because it like automatically sets my lines. If we come in here and now we put this as, I think it needs to be custom. Right? After $20,000, it needs to be custom. And what does custom really entail? Well, it depends on the industry. It depends on a lot of different things. But I'm going to give you some different scenarios. So typically in management of paid media, there's two goals, right? So let's go back up to custom pricing. What does custom pricing depend on? Well, result. What's the desired result? For the e-commerce space, it would be revenue or return on ad spend, which is ROAS. Or in the lead generation space, it would be leads generated, phone calls, web conversions, etc. So those are the two that you're going to deal with the most often, especially in the paid media side. You know, if it's brand awareness, there might be views or, you know, impression share or things of that nature. But those are typically the main results that you can derive metrics on. And what I would do under a custom bucket breakout, what I would do is have, if you start to get clients that spend a lot of money and you're actually focused on what you do that's really, really good, what I would do is I would do custom would be a percent of ad spend plus a result-based metric plus a retainer. I would actually add them all together. Maybe I wouldn't do a percent of ad spend. I would just use the percent of ad spend. Use percent of ad spend to gauge price to market. And then I would do a retainer plus a result-based metric. So let's say I would actually do retainer first and then a result-based metric. So this ensures, why would I do it this way? The reason why, where is this weird spacing in here? The reasons why, let's go like that. The reasons why is because no matter what the result, no matter how the results are generated, me, myself, my team, my company, no, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for you, yourself, your team, your company will get paid. Guys, right now, I mean, just as of this video recording, May 19th, 2022, the stock market's taking a huge plunge. You know, we're looking at maybe a recession. Who knows what's going to happen? We just got out of a pandemic. So what this means, if you just go based off result-based metric to get paid, then what if there's certain things that are beyond your control? What if you're putting 30 hours into an account and then the market takes a hit? Does that necessarily mean that you shouldn't get paid? I don't think so. You're putting time into it. That's why you should get paid a minimum regardless, right? So in our example here, let me move up here. In our example here, based off of 15% of ad spend to evaluate the market, you should get paid $3,000 if the ad spend is $20,000 or more, no matter what. Then after that, to eliminate the interest of the media buyer, freelancer, agency, what have you, to eliminate the interest in the media buyer for the client, for you guys to spend more money, we would do a custom tier based off of results. So it's almost like a commission structure. So maybe based on the results that we're getting, then based on account performance, the media buyer, I'm going to say agency, freelancer, etc., has an interest to always increase performance. That's why. It's a commission structure. So that's going to say, hey, we need to drive, if we're doing for lead gen, we need to drive more leads to the account for a lower cost per conversion. If you're generating for e-commerce space or any selling products online, we need to generate more revenue. That's the media buyer saying, okay, at least we're covered, right? We're covered based on the market conditions at a fee that makes sense for the client, but we're incentivized. That's what I really meant to say. I'm going to say media buyer is incentivized to increase performance. That's the key, right? And that's why after a certain amount, it's like, okay, let's not just be on a percentage of ad spend. So that's, I think, the best way to go about it if the client is spending over a certain threshold. Again, I only use percent of ad spend to gauge the market. I typically never really want to charge a percent of ad spend. What I'll do is I will use percent of ad spend to gauge the market, right? To gauge my pricing. And I'll do, whatever the industry forebodes. I'll usually start at 15%. Sometimes I'll go up, sometimes I'll go down, depending upon the saturation of the industry that I serve, so on and so forth. But it's a good first rule. And then what I'll do as an agency owner, I will evaluate the amount of hours that it will take to perform all the duties in the account. And again, that's really, really specific and goes back to the management fee factors, the details of the account. So basically, answer the question, how many hours per month will it take to service the account? You know, for social media, like you have to take into account ad copy changes, creative changes, feed/data integrations, you know, reporting, you know, so evaluate in terms of hours, right? That's an agency. You have to put a number, and even if it's an approximate, you got to put a number that how many hours you're going to put into the account, because those are the, I guess this is the conclusion. You need to evaluate two numbers: what the pricing is of the market relative to the overall advertising of that market, which is your percent of ad spend, and then evaluate the amount of hours that the account is going to take. So management fee factors, answer the questions. And I'm going to put the details of the account under the amount of hours. So question 1, I'm going to say question 1, how many hours per month will it take to service the account? I'm actually going to make that question 2, because question 1 will be what is the market average? And then you can use percent of ad spend to determine the percent of ad spend to determine the what am I saying? I'm going to say it. Market average price. So that's what I would do. Management fee factors, answer the questions. What is the market average? Use percent of ad spend to determine the market average price, or the market average fee, right? And that's where this grid comes along. You know, maybe you evaluate that they're spending $15,000 in ad spend per month. Well, 15% of 15 is, I'm just going to do it on my calculator here. 0.15 times 15,000 is 2250, right? I could have done that. Shame. So you can use that as a retainer. I typically like to always charge a retainer because it makes sense. But this is how I determine what the retainer is. Now, if it's anything over a certain amount of ad spend, then we're going to add some custom pricing. So, okay, we're going to add incentive for us to perform. So that's the best way to go about it when you reach a certain level. These are all the different levels you can reach. But the main factor, the whole point of the video is actually right in here. Management fee factors. Answer the following questions. You know, here's your main factor. Bang. So once you do this, then you can come up with a custom solution. And a custom solution typically use percent of ad spend to gauge price to market. Also back into amount of hours the account maintenance, that one's always tricky, maintenance will take, and then calculate a retainer plus result-based metric. Here's your reasons why. No matter how the results are generated, you yourself, your team, your company will get paid. Then, based on account performance, the media buyer has an interest to always increase performance or incentivize an incentive to increase account performance. That is the best model. Again, to go through percent of ad spend, pros and cons. I know this is all kind of crazy, but if we go up here, percent of ad spend, pros and cons. Let's say, what are the other ones? Retainer, pros, cons. The retainer pros and cons would be, limited to a fixed amount of hours that you can put into the account, or doesn't work and isn't scalable for smaller ad spend clients, right? If a client can only spend $1,000 in ads, does it make sense to charge them $1,500? No, I don't really think so. So that's the couple pros and cons of a retainer. Actually, I'm just talking about the cons. Some of the pros would be simple billing, simple and consistent billing, which is always easier for clients, especially when they do their forecasts and audits for taxes and things like that. What's the other one I didn't include? Performance-based. The pros to that would be, you have incentive for media buyers to increase performance. That's the big one. Holistic pricing and best value. That's best value for the clients. But the cons are ad managers cannot always control the end result. If you don't have control of the website, checkout process, market conditions, you just don't have control over that, and you need to get paid regardless. That's the biggest con for performance based. So in my solution, determining a management fee factor, I know it's pretty convoluted, but I think that, with this document outlining everything we talked about, plus this document showing just a basic example and scale of what you would get, I think it gives people a good starting range to help back into exactly what they need to charge. So hopefully this helps everyone. Hopefully this helps agency owners, freelancers know what to charge, and business owners know exactly what is fair for them and how to distinguish good agencies and freelancers versus ones that are a little more, dare I say, shady. All right, guys, that is it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.